Hey everybody, welcome to the Otherz podcast. I am your host, Stephen Penny. Two special guests this week, one joining me maybe for a little bit longer than the other, but joining me from the UK first. Let's go there. Tim Dougill, how you doing, man?
Good evening, mate. Yeah, very well, thank you. Happy to be on your podcast.
Good stuff.
Been listening for a while, so I'm intrigued.
It's good to have you here. And then joining all the way from sunny Los Angeles, we thought I'd try and convince him to come on yet again for the third or fourth time or something silly like that. Seeing as we're talking about a track that he worked on, it is friend of the podcast, Brent Paschke. How you doing, man?
Good. How you guys? Good. Thanks for having me on.
A pleasure as always, Brent. A pleasure as always. You keeping safe out there in LA?
Yeah. LA's taking it pretty. As far as the states, LA's seems to be one of the more serious. They pushed us to the 15th, and they were quick on like closing everybody in and stuff. So they've been. In fact, I think it was the governor yesterday, I believe, said like possible we won't have any concerts, any big events or anything till 2021.
Heard the same, yeah.
Yeah.
So have you been told when your lockdown finishes?
Well, they're light on it. They got us till the 15th right now, but they kind of feel who knows what'll happen. It's hard to say, right? Like it's a big over here. It's a big kind of push between the president having the say of if we're all going in at one time or not, but the states really have the say. But it's tricky. I mean, we know we've seen this. We see the examples in other places. Like we're all let out, and it's who knows. We're just riding it out day by day. But Cali, like they play it pretty safe over here. As opposed to the middle of the states. I don't think it's not taking it quite as serious right now. But then they don't have the cases that the coast do. So.
Well, a great time to, if you're staying inside, to be productive, let's say.
Yeah.
Maybe learn something new, as we talked about on last week's podcast. Somebody may be doing online live YouTube tutorials, which we can talk about in a moment, I guess.
Yes.
All right, so let's quickly get on to our song for this week and our video for this week, and that is the fifth single, although a very limited release from the Girl album, and that is It Girl. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, an extremely underrated track and an extremely underrated video as well. Really love the video. The very quick stats before we throw to you, Brent, to get your kind of thoughts and memories. The track released on the 10th of November 2014, as I say, the fifth single from the album. If I remember correctly, it was actually only a digital download and actually got a physical release in the UK where, from my notes here, it got to an extremely high 191 in the UK chart.
Wow.
As I said, I don't think there was a lot of promotion around it. I don't think there was much of a push at this point for on the fifth single of the album. 10 million views on YouTube. Most people that have watched the video will probably recognize it instantly. Produced by the legend Takashi Murakami, who Pharrell has worked with a number of times via his company Kai Kai Kiki, and then animation production by N.E.R.D, and the direction by Mr. and Fantasia Utamara. I think I said that right? Utamaro, maybe. Yes. So, as I say, actually one of my favourite tracks from the album, and everyone I speak to about the Girl album, they always seem to forget about this one. Then when you mention it, their eyes light up and they think of the track, and they think of that. Mainly, I think the epic outro that the track has, which is kind of, I think Pharrell did an interview a few years back when the album came out, talking about how there's that huge intro. What is it? It's over 2.5 minute outro or something.
Yeah.
2 minutes 20 by my notes.
Yeah.
So I did do some prep.
essentially half the song there, basically, and obviously made for kind of live performances and stuff like that. So going back to obviously, when it was being made and conceived upon, the idea of it, what are your kind of memories of it, Brent, and actually, playing on it?
I don't like the specifics of each one, I don't quite remember. I mean, I remember coming into the studio when I was, when I started recording that stuff, and Pharrell just played down a whole bunch of like, the album pretty much. It's just like, yeah, we got all of these. I don't quite remember that one. I do remember the outro and, just talking about it being like that long, vibey kind of thing. And then it's kind of like, got all the big guitar kind of things and the reversed guitars and stuff. And I think we were just going for, I mean, for me, thinking like, could I just make some kind of cool, trippy, I mean, I like to, and it's kind of my taste too, but with N.E.R.D, like I like to kind of keep that classic kind of vibe with things. Like you could go and blast a big solo over the end, of it. I don't know, I just didn't think that really fit that, So yeah, we just did a bunch of, that's all. I think it's all fuzz factory at the end, which is kind of the N.E.R.D sound, the distortion sound. So we just went with that kind of that sound. And I'm trying to remember, I'm sure Pharrell had the idea. Pharrell typically, honestly, has the parts written in his head, like 95% of the time. So more than likely he told me, on this end part, do some, you know what I mean? And then I just added the other overdubs, and I vaguely remember like in the studio taking those, and then we would find, because when you're finding reversed guitars, you just have to play a bunch and kind of see which one sounds cool, because you can't really tell what it's going to sound like when you're playing it in forward, So I think we just played a bunch of stuff and clipped it, reversed it.
So a lot of that is just kind of trial and error almost.
Yeah. A lot of that's trial and error. Just, and you can hear it go, you just want it to kind of get that Jimi Hendrix, kind of thing. That's really what Electric Ladyland, Jimi Hendrix kind of, vibe out stuff.
You mentioned about getting that N.E.R.D sound, and I think there's only a couple of tracks on this album which I'd say would fit in an N.E.R.D album. I think this one being one of them, the one being Hunter, and that in fact, this when I first heard this, I thought it sounds like Laser Gun Carrier. There's something similar about it.
Sounds like what was that?
It Girl and Laser Gun Carrier. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of epic sounding, and as you say, the almost Hendrix-esque psychedelic to it.
Yeah, and there's fairly recently when I go in on some of this stuff, like that I didn't like that's kind of my default is to step on that. Like it's funny because Pharrell will call it when I use that distortion. He doesn't know. He's not saying like, oh, that's the fuzz factory. He just calls it the N.E.R.D sound, Yeah. But it's the fuzz factory. And a lot of times, like he's got a specific thing in mind. So on this album, I wasn't stepping on that kind of sound because that just puts it right. Like that sound almost just. I have it up. That sound just puts it right into. That. It just sounds like N.E.R.D. It's so so when I. You know what I mean? Like it's totally got that. It sounds so N.E.R.D. So like he was moving me a little bit away from that. He would say like not the N.E.R.D. guitars though, but then that gets tricky too because the fuzz is so like just one note is like you know what I mean? It's like rock, So you might want something that's got a lot of energy. And then I'm not going towards the fuzz factory, which is tricky for me because then if you're going for a lot of energy, then you're kind of, your next step is typically a standard distorted guitar sound, which is not typically something I go for, and it sounds more normal. So in my growing up playing on all the N.E.R.D stuff, it's not about being normal at all, So you're always kind of finding that fine line in between there, to get the right thing.
Sometimes you've got to rein it in, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I remember about the end part, a lot of tweaking with that and trial and error and stuff.
And with it being made, or kind of almost made as a track to be played live, do you remember getting many opportunities to play it live? Because I'm trying to think of all the shows that I've been to, and there's probably 15 of them now or whatever it is. I don't remember that actually ever seeing that track done live at a show at any point.
Yeah, it was in the set list for a bit. I think it was probably in early on. We just kind of see which ones work, or I don't know. Like there's different people who make the set list and stuff like that, and then just kind of walk the audience and see what they feel is working.
And I guess kind of vocally, it's probably quite a challenging song to do live. On a regular basis, let's say.
Yeah, maybe so. But it was a fun one to do live because I could stretch, the ending, I could stretch out and do some fun stuff on that too. We a lot of times would have the original guitar, that original part playing, so I could kind of play around that, which was pretty cool. Or if I doubled it, then it just gets that extra width for live. And sometimes live depends on what like Pharrell's looking for. Like typically though, he likes to stay much closer to the record. It seems like it's went more and more staying closer to the record. So we kind of try to stay in there. So when there's those moments where the band can kind of stretch out a little bit, it's pretty fun. You can kind of have a little bit of a joy on that. Yeah.
I've noticed that over the years, that as you say, he kind of likes to stick to the records. There's, especially nowadays, especially with the live shows and the festivals and things, I think I've noticed not as much room for you guys to kind of do your own thing, to kind of, for it to break down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. There was a period, I think, in the very early days where you got the chance to do that quite a lot. And a few years back there, especially when you had all the dancers and things like that, there was that opportunity as well where there was different sort of breakdowns in the shows. But I have something I've noticed as well over the years. It tends to be very, this is the track, this is where it starts, this is where it finishes, and that's what you tend to play and perform. Yeah,
so as for us live players, then we're just like, we're really trying to just take what's there and add that little bit of extra energy to for the live thing, right? So we can push a little bit of extra energy on that, but being careful to really keep it true to its form. That is one thing. Pharrell once said he just preferred like going to a show and seeing like it performed like it is, rather than it's just completely different. So we worked hard to really maintain the essence of the song, but just give it that little bit of extra for live.
So you mentioned then about the different set lists that you have. What's the track that you look forward to seeing each time you're playing live? What's your favorite to play?
Oh man, honestly, I know people ask that. Do you ever get sick of playing lap dance or rockstar or whatever? I don't, man. And they're all really pretty. They're all really fun. Like the Pharrell gig's a fun gig, because there's for a live musician, there's a lot of like fun stuff. Whether the songs are simple or not, they're really fun. And a lot of times they are lap dances. I mean, that's like a 101 guitar part, really. But they're fun, and they're all really pretty dang fun, dude. Seriously, it's hard to pick a favorite, and plus the guys in the band are so freaking good. Like P really does all that right. Like he cares, and he cares to have great musicians and great people with him. So I listen. I hear people who do other high profile gigs, and they're just like, this is not the one. We're usually the guys on the road that people are like, I hate you for having that gig. I want, because our set list is like, we're going to play Brain, Rockstar, Lap Dance, It Girl, Come Get It, Bae, Get Lucky, it's like, I'm cool.
It's just like a carnival on stage.
It's a freaking, at this point, it's a greatest hits, you know? So, yeah, anything's pretty damn cool, you know? Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else I had to ask. Anything from you, Tim, while I'm trying to scan through my notes?
Yeah, so we talked about your favourite one to play, and obviously you've been around N.E.R.D since the beginning with Spy Mob, but I think it might have been one of your interviews on here actually, where you talked about first playing on In Search of, moving it from the digital version to the Spy Mob version, and you kind of went in there and played something, and Chad was like, no, and I think you then morphed it into something else, didn't you? So you went in it and played around with it first, but then they sculpted it more as to how they wanted it. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we spent like, okay, so this is, God, remember like 2000 or whatever, right? 20 years ago. So Spy Mob, we got the album, and then we tried a whole bunch of stuff in our studio, you know, but that, when we tracked that, the live tracking of that was really primarily Chad, you know. They were getting so busy at that time that they were starting to split off to, they were still obviously Neptunes together, but they were like, they had to take different gigs because Pharrell was recording whoever and Chad had to cover the instruments, you know? So, yeah, we came in with some stuff, but Chad, like, man, he would just, we would offer some ideas. That early on, we could offer, we you know, it was a little more like, we didn't know what we were going to do with it, you know what I mean? So there was like the room for that, right? So, but Chad kind of, we would throw like ideas out, and Chad just did his production thing, and that's where all that came out, you know? What we're gonna double, are we gonna add an additional part or not? But typically, honestly, with a lot of the Chad and Pharrell songs, like, man, they're really exceptional. Obviously, they're really exceptional at like shaping parts together. So I find this, I tell people this, like, you'll be in there with a new track, and you just recorded the part that, like, you know, Pharrell or Chad asked you to, and it's fun because it's exciting. All of a sudden, you're on this new freaking super cool groove, and you just want to play, you know. So you might think of a couple ideas, but it's funny. Like, once I put them down, I'm like, it gets in the way. Those guys are, everything is so rhythmically intertwined already that it's almost like when you start adding stuff, it just gets bulky real quick, even with how simple their tracks are, you know.
And how's that process changed over the years and working with it? So from that first in Search of, where you were mostly working with Chad, to is it now still a lot of time in the studio, or is it samples sent over to say, you know, what do you think about this? What can you riff around this? How's it changed through the years?
Well, a lot of time, I mean, it you know, it hasn't honestly changed that much, because we just have to be super, with Chad, with their productions especially, you have to be super careful with the foundation, right? Like, so when Pharrell or Chad program a drum beat, it's the thing, or program anything, right? One of the things that doesn't get talked a lot about, that we love about these certain producers, Tim and Pharrell and Storage Dre or whatever, they have a certain way that they play things in, and the greats, I find, don't really like hard quantize everything. They know how to kind of balance between keeping a real life feel or not. So a lot of it, God, getting back to the real question though, a lot of it is the same, and we just have to be very conscious of what's already there and really locking into what's already there. Honestly, it's the same. I think the first N.E.R.D album, yeah, a little different because we were somewhat figuring it out.
Yeah.
So there was a few more places that we flexed on, like adding some things, you know, but that typically, honestly, doesn't happen as much anymore. Those guys, they get the stuff, and then either they've got a guitar part they can hum to me, or it's been played on a keyboard or something, and I'm copying it. And then, in fact, to the point where, like, a lot of times, so many of those guitar parts we will keep the original keyboard in, because it just got, like, original fake guitar, I should say fake, you know, guitar in with me, because the original one has such a flavor to it, you know. So I'm just really working to like enhance the foundation that's there. They're a little bit different sessions in a way, because so much is already, foundation is already super solid.
And when it comes back to so like the part you mentioned earlier for It Girl, when you're trying to find the reverse guitar parts to kind of fit in, from your perspective, is that you sat there for hours and hours with Drew or Mike or whoever it might be, doing them one by one, both listening back to them, or do you sit there and go, here's 100 different variants, have fun guys, and you move on?
I sit there with them on that stuff. I just It Girl, like, so that would be, you know, the end. I'm sure Pharrell gave me that, you know, and then I will just kind of go, oh, I'm gonna try some stuff to add these vibey, trippy things. More than likely, Pharrell or Chat, you know, that's obviously Pharrell's song. So Pharrell said to me, like, you know, something trippy. He gave me some kind of direction, you know what I mean? And then I just sat there with, I don't know, I can't remember if it was Drew or Mike, you know, at that time, you know, who was doing that with me. And then we just record a bunch and do it on our own. Pharrell will then come in the next morning and give the thumbs up or redo, you know. So
actually, I did like a video that Eric shared with me when I spoke to him. Was it probably last year? I think he shared some session videos with me from Fly or Die, I want to say. And Seeing Sound. Sorry, yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a good video of you sat in the studio. I think you're with Chad for the whole time, and you've got a guitar part playing, and you're doing like, I guess kind of like overdubs. You're doing it over and over and over again. Sat there with him, just both intently, almost kind of staring at each other as you go through it. It's a kind of really great video to see you doing that in the studio setting and doing it kind of almost like live and working it out between you, just sat there in chairs in front of each other.
Yeah. I'll just sit. That was I think the one. I think that's that.
It might well be that. Yeah.
Yeah, that Killjoy. Yeah. So that's just me. That was played. Like Pharrell had that played. So that part was kind of complex because he kind of doesn't. He changes. It's like this pattern. But he'll do like these little at random times and stuff. So you have to sit there and like, I played exactly what he played. And then I just go, okay, Chad, let's try it. Maybe we should try double it. Maybe we should try. I know on that one we did then, you know, like an octave up on it, you know. So we just sit there and work it out. And then most of the time then it's just sitting and going like, how good does it feel? I just need to get the part. And then it's just really, really getting the part. Like this is what I teach, like I like to teach a lot about. It's like, do you really, really know the song, or can you really, really play the part on the record? Because it's not just enough to play, you know, but you have to get you have to get that pocket just right, you know, and you have to get it just right with Pharrell, you know what I mean? Because you're not getting that by him. Like it's gotta feel great, or it's, you know, you're gonna have to do it over, or he's gonna have somebody else come in and But yeah, that's what you're seeing when you see that. It's just us just really, really getting into the fine details. Just spend a lot of time on the fine details, you know, if we can.
Yeah, those videos that I saw were a really great insight into that. You know, the videos include yourself and and then some of the stuff with Pharrell in the studio there, and even kind of Eric shared a lot of his kind of sessions as well, where he's in the booth himself doing his parts on the drums and stuff, just over and over and over again, just crazy repetitive, just to get every tiny little bit perfect.
That perfect feel, that feel that Pharrell and Chad have when even Chad like I've been getting a couple sessions from him recently. It's just like, God, it's just the way they program drums. Like, it's just swanky, man. Like so yeah, Eric would sit in there and play, because they'll do typically around a 4-bar pattern, right? And then the goal for Eric is to play it as close to that pattern as possible, because it's not quantized, right? Like, and Eric has to play it as close as possible. But then what we have to do is we have to line up, because with the audio, as you guys would know too, is the audio has to be lined up. We can't have everything flamming, in places. So then Eric gets it, and Eric can get it so stinking close to that. But like, we might need to nudge a couple things over just a little bit so they're not flamming or even phasing out. Like if his kick drum's hitting the same time as Pharrell's kick, they got to make sure we have that all aligned. So A, it's not flamming, B, it's not phasing, and C, we didn't lose the groove. So those are the things that are super, super important. They take a lot of time. It definitely is some detailed work on that. Like Drew, that first N.E.R.D album, man, we spent because that 2000, so that's new, bro. Like, tracking live drums to other stuff and getting all that phase coherence, flamming, and the groove right and stuff. That wasn't easy, man. That was tricky. So we spent a lot of time. It was in Pro Tools. It's called Beat Detective, which actually really works great still. And you just take one groove and that's the Pharrell groove, and you take the drum groove underneath it, and you have it mark all the transients, all the hits, all the drum hits, and then you make sure that those are lined up with Pharrell's. And you get this monster feel. It's pretty fun. Once you get it locked in, it's really awesome. Yeah.
I wish I were that talented.
It's just computer work at that point.
You still have some talent. Tim, is there anything else from you before we let Brent go? Because I know, Brent, you have to go and prep for your show this afternoon.
Yeah.
I have one more question, and it's a light-hearted one. Tell us a funny story from when you've been on tour.
The what's that?
A funny story for when you've been on tour with N.E.R.D.
God.
Put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's I don't know. There's so many. I don't know, because so many of them are like just crew stories and stuff. I mean, shit. We missed a show once because Pharrell was stuck on the tarmac in I think it was Colorado or something, and was talking on the phone over the intercom to the audience. Sorry, I'm stuck on the tarmac, and I won't be able to make the show tonight. Like, there's some crazy shit like that, Like, I don't know. I mean, touring with us, it's we're not a wild touring band or anything, I don't know. We don't have a lot of crazy stories. I'm sorry, man. I can't.
That's fine.
There's that time you came to Finland and some British guy nearly cried in front of you because he was so starstruck. I'm sure you remember that from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it can get kind of crazy. The earlier days were even crazier. Like, I mean, there wasn't, you didn't, like, these people didn't, the internet and stuff wasn't as blown up. You know what I mean? So
is there anything that you can tell us that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah. So, still doing things here and there when Chad and P do some stuff with them. But a lot of stuff I'm doing, working a lot with this company called Apogee. So doing a lot of online, like, especially in this time. So I've been working with Apogee in this time to do a lot of live video, what do we call them, Hangouts or whatever, where I kind of go through some of their product that connects to really iOS devices at this point, and basically just show how to use their product to make music with GarageBand. And I love doing that because GarageBand's free, and you can inspire a lot of young people who are just starting and maybe don't know where to start. And GarageBand is just such a great, unbelievable tool to start creating music on, to use for practicing, And then the Apogee interfaces work unbelievably well with the iOS products.
So I didn't know too much about it until I read into with Steve Lacy that he wrote his first album, or just did it all on GarageBand. Did the whole thing on it.
Kendrick Lamar single that he did is done on GarageBand.
Wow.
It's like, so that's why I kind of stepped in that direction. I wanted to want to inspire, the way I got into that was talking to a lot of people who were starting up, and I realized quickly how little music education was in the schools still. I didn't really understand that because I had like jazz band and music theory and stuff. So the inspiration for that was, listen, if somebody wants to be a musician these days, what would they do? And where would they start? And you get on the internet, and that's a tough one, man. If you're just starting out, what do you get Ableton, you get Pro Tools, you get, I think your choice is no. You start with what's in your pocket, which is your iPhone probably, and just get GarageBand and hey, even if you just want to test it out and dabble in it, like, so what? It's free. And there's all these devices, these interfaces that, like Apogee, especially Apogee, these iOS interfaces they make are unbelievable, dude. Like, unbelievable. I would feel fine if I'm on the road and I have just it's called the Jam interface that you use to plug your guitar into it. I'd feel fine doing a guitar on GarageBand and sending it to Pharrell if I had that.
That's a great advert, isn't it? I should use that as the advert line.
Seriously, and I've done it before. If I'm sitting here and I have to, like, oh cool, I gotta record this part for P quick. I'd literally plug into my iPhone with my Apogee Jam Plus, open up GarageBand, record it. I'd just send him that. The quality's totally good enough.
Yeah, it's amazing. We said on last week's podcast when I was chatting to Julio about this, and we were chatting about the shows you've been doing on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Just, for people that are at home, if they, obviously the most important thing is, stay healthy mentally, physically, and all that. But, if you want to learn something new, if you want to try something out, if you just want to fiddle around, see how it goes, your videos and tutorials are great because, you can literally pick up your iPhone, and even if you don't have an instrument, there are so many preloaded sounds on there, plugins that are kind of already built into the thing. You can, as you said, some of the Kendrick Lamar beats, I can't remember who it was that did them, but he actually did them on the iPhone, on his phone. And you can just knock those out just by playing around with it. And then if you want to step up, you can get some of these interfaces or start bringing in external instruments and stuff, and it's a great way to learn. And obviously my kid, and he's 9 now, 9.5, and he's got the book that you did for Happy a while back, and he followed that on his little iPad and his iPhone, and I've been showing him your videos recently about how you can essentially create a whole song. I think later today, I think this podcast will go out Friday. Today's Thursday, but I think it's your fourth stream. I think maybe.
I think it's the fourth.
And I watched your third one the other day. Towards the end of the third one, you've already got pretty much a fully structured track there, essentially, with most of the parts. And you've done that in the space of a few hours, basically.
Bro, like I literally, like, on my first one, I started this. This one today, I'm gonna focus on, like, how to use GarageBand to find some new creativity. You know what I mean? Like, I always use the word creative toolkit. Like, fill up your creative toolkit. Like, so today it's gonna be like how to open up GarageBand and just get some immediate creativity, right? Get some inspiration. But up to this point, man, I built this track, and it's like, you can see in the first video how quickly it happens. It's like, cool, I'm gonna open up GarageBand and open it up with a drum part, and the drum part's right there, and then I'm gonna put two guitars in and then throw a bass in there. And within, like, I'm explaining it too, but with explanation and everything, it's like 30 minutes, and I'm into, like, some kind of cool little progression. Like That's why GarageBand's insane. And then here's the other thing: is GarageBand's older brother is Logic. So GarageBand's made by Apple. It just goes right into Logic, which is Logic's $200. You buy it once, and you don't have to get hit with these upgrade fees and all this stuff. So you're just, when I do some of like I might start some of these practice things for some of my education stuff. Like I'll put them in GarageBand. If I want to add to it, I just once I close out GarageBand, it iClouds up into my computer, and I just hit open with Logic. It's unbelievable. Like, it's unreal. So I try to always push with my education. I always try to push this. Well, listen, this is a great place to start. It's free and it's really inexpensive, and the amount of stuff you can do is unbelievable. If you doubt it, talk to Stephen Lacy and see how his publishing checks are from that Kendrick Lamar album. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and he's doing some freaking, Lacy's killing it, man. Like, his stuff is killer, dude.
I heard his track with Thundercats. The new one is on Thundercats. That's amazing.
It's killing, bro. It's
Thundercat was saying like it's just a magician, and that's coming from Thundercat.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So that's right. That's why I push it. You know, that's been my latest thing, and I've been doing more and more education, doing that stuff. And this has been a good opportunity for me to start to get the online thing kind of going a little bit. Obviously, I've been in the education stuff for a bit with university and whatnot, so this is just a good opportunity for me to get the next step.
And people can find all the videos. They're on the Apogee YouTube channel, aren't they, I believe?
Apogee YouTube channel, yep. So Apogee will always be pushing those out. It'll be today at 4:00 LA Pacific time, I guess. Yeah, and then I'm gonna start dropping some stuff up on my YouTube, just the Brent Paschke YouTube channel. It has nothing right now, but I'm gonna start getting some stuff up there. I got a bunch of curriculum obviously written, so I'm pretty stoked to get that out.
Nice, we're looking forward to that. And I think there was a link in last week's show notes, but I'll add one to this week's as well, so people can go and check those videos out and hopefully subscribe and like and follow you on future live sessions as well. Yeah,
awesome, man.
But Brent, thank you for joining us, mate. We really, really appreciate it as always. I'll let you get back to prepping for today's session.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'll be staying up until 2 a.m. again to watch it live, but I'll check it out tomorrow once it's up on YouTube.
Sounds great, man. Awesome, guys. Well, great meeting you.
Yeah, great to meet you.
Thanks for calling me in, man. We'll see you guys.
Thanks, Brent. Take it easy, mate. I'll speak to you later.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Cheers. What a nice guy.
And then there were two.
Yeah.
So there we go, everybody. A little bit of insight into the making of It Girl and various other tracks and all sorts of insights there from Brent himself, as always. Let's get back to the video and the song ourselves quickly. I think there's probably some more general stuff to chat about the video and the song. Let's get into the video a little bit more, because I think we've chatted quite a lot about the track itself. Again, I think it's a very underrated video. I really love the kind of animation style involved here, the graphics, the way it's kind of been produced and put together. It's got that kind of, it's a mixture of anime and 16-bit computer game sort of going on. It's a weird mix, but it's a mix that works, I think.
I came to the same conclusions, yeah. It's got a bit of a 90s gaming vibe, hasn't it?
Yes.
So I think it's just before halfway through, there's the player selection bit, which reminded me, the first two games that came to my mind were Golden Axe and Streets of Rage.
Yeah. So
it is very much that kind of 90s vibe, but yeah, with the anime, big-breasted ladies in bikinis.
Yeah, see, this is weird. I've got a note here partly around this, and this is very much a cultural thing and a cultural difference, I think, compared to us in the UK and the US and other parts of the world. And it's that kind of that anime type of vibe, that kind of that focus on kind of schoolgirl type characters, which I think to us in another part of the world and from a different culture, kind of seems a bit strange and a bit kind of creepy to a certain extent. Whereas, I think in Japan, in Asia, and those parts of the world, it's I'm going to say normal, but in air quotes. And there is that there is that part in the video where there's, I think, 3 or 4 of these kind of, girls on the beach, and they're burying a couple of them in the sand. And Pharrell is stood back from the beach, but looking at them through binoculars, and then kind of winks to the camera. It's sinister is the word I wrote in my notes. It's very strange. I found it a bit strange how that kind of got signed off by his people. Again, I completely understand there are cultural differences, and to the people that made it, it's probably not seen as creepy or strange or anything. But at that time, and especially with that album, which is all about women and the empowerment of women and all that kind of thing, I just found it a little bit strange how that part got okayed in the video and got through the people at I Am Other and Sony, I guess it perhaps was at. So yeah, slightly strange there.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think, obviously, correct me if I'm wrong here, Girl came after Blurred Lines, didn't it?
Blurred Lines was kind of partway through the single release, so this is the 5th single. I think Blurred Lines came out between the 2nd and 3rd single of the album. So it's all kind of roughly around the same time.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I think at that point, it seemed like Pharrell was having a bit of an epiphany that, maybe, the lyrics in Blurred Lines obviously caused a lot of controversy, rightly said, and I think that's where the naming of the album came from, and his kind of ode to women have been the inspirations in his lives and the people who supported him. So I saw that connection, but maybe that was just me, that he's like, I can see what people are saying now, but honestly, it's far from me, far from the truth.
Yes, yeah. So some, let's say, mixed messages there. But yeah, in terms of the video as well, again, as I mentioned, there's some amazing graphics and animation in there. There's a small part in there, I think about halfway through the video, around this, I think it's the second chorus, where you've got, which was obviously a video of Pharrell kind of dancing, then it's been turned into an animation, and it has a lot of kind of flags and logos and things behind him. I think that's a great piece of animation, and stylistically it looks great as well. It's one of my favourite kind of scenes in that video, and in pretty much any video. When this video comes on, it's something I'll always sit down and watch, no matter how many times I've seen it or heard the song itself. So yeah, excellent video from my perspective. I did kind of quite like the touch at the end where you have the kind of scene of what would appear to be Mount Rushmore, but instead it's got the face of Takashi Murakami, Mr., then Pharrell, and then Murakami's little miniature dog, whatever he is, at the end of the mountain as one of the faces as well. I thought that was quite an interesting part to sort of add into the video as well.
Yeah, for me, the second part of the song and the video make it for me. The whole breakdown, instrumental, the guitar. We're just talking to Brent, and obviously it finishes off in space. There's a bit of Space Invader theme going on up there, and then also I don't know if you've got this, but I've got a Billionaire Boys Club jacket, and it's very much of that star space look. So it's lots of different stars and
Starfield pattern it's called. Yeah.
Is that? Well, there we go. I was right.
It's my it's my favourite BBC pattern ever. I don't know if I've got any in this room, in fact, but no, I've got that blown up on my wall in the lounge. In fact, that Starfield design. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think that there's very much theme there as well. I don't know if it's linked or not, but in the videos I thought, it looks like my jacket. And I love that jacket. You're right. It's probably one of the best BBC patterns for me. But yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes, very much so.
Just can't wear it at the moment because I can't go out.
I feel your pain with my walk-in wardrobe of solely BBC ICECREAM items, which I never wear anyway. But even now, I can't wear them even if I wanted to. So
I know I'm quite envious when I look at your Instagram and I see that room pop up. So you've got stuff in there that you will never wear.
Yeah, I like to think that I'd wear it at some point, but there's a lot of stuff in there that I buy because I like the design or the pattern or whatever it might be. And then I don't just get around to wearing it. The stuff in there just doesn't fit me anymore. There's stuff in there that is just ridiculously rare. That there's a few items in there that I know that only me and maybe 2 or 3 other people in the world have, and they probably don't even have theirs anymore. So those things will never get worn, and it's just kind of slowly built up over time. And I like to think the older I get, the more sensible I get. And I always say to myself every now and again, like, I should really clear that out. I should really sell some of those bits, bits that don't fit me, bits that I'm never going to wear. But then
but you can't bring yourself to do it.
No, it breaks my heart thinking about it. So.
See, I've got so 2 pieces of items of clothing I want to talk about. First of all is and this is a big regret of mine. When I got the ICECREAM bleepers, they were 50 quid, Reebok ones, and I wore them day in, day out. And now I've still got them, so I can't bring myself to throw them away. But I think I actually put a picture of them on Instagram and asked if there's a way of cleaning them. You said, "No, they're Donald Ducks. They are." So I wish I got a second pair. So if you know anyone who's selling at a reasonable price.
See, that's the problem now. 16-year-old sneakers, they come at a price, and that price is not reasonable, unfortunately.
And the other piece is actually a 8-piece. It's quite eye-catching, to say the least, and it's not something you can wear.
I've got a few pieces like that as well, where I buy them thinking they look nice and they're interesting, but then when I actually try them on, I'm like, I can't go out in public wearing this. I'm a grown-ass man with a kid. I can't get away with this anymore. If I was 20 years younger, maybe, but not anymore.
Just wear them inside.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do. I've got a huge office space here, so I can pull everything out of the wardrobe every now and again out of the closet and sort of parade around in my large office space with no one else around. All right, so before we get on to kind of more BBC type stuff and news and whatnot, have we got anything else for It Girl, or is that our lot?
No, I'll just say that it's probably my favourite track on the album. Gust of Wind, close second. And as I said, Hunter. That I'm more of an N.E.R.D fan than a Pharrell album fan. Although I have got back into it in my mind recently because I got it on vinyl. But It Girl, definitely my favourite. So I'm glad that I've got to discuss this one. So thank you.
Good stuff. All right, let's get on to a bit of news and some releases and whatnot. I did notice. I think it was this week. I think it was BBC announced that Pharrell's Happy was the most played song of the decade on UK TV and radio. I was having a hunt around to see if they actually released the numbers that's kind of based off of. They didn't seem to, but it is an interesting list, and Pharrell is obviously top of that list with Happy, but then does also appear at number 4 with Get Lucky as well. Also another kind of major track. I'm just trying to bring up the link now to see if I can find who else was in there, but I've obviously copied the wrong link, haven't I? But yeah, other ones in there, Adele, Maroon 5, Justin Timberlake, Black Eyed Peas, Mark Ronson, Kings of Leon, people like that. Massive tracks. One that I did notice, and again, I don't have the original link here. I've got some stupid independent link. But I did notice there's only one track in I think the top 100 from the 90s, in fact. Any idea what it is?
From the 90s? God.
Yeah, from the 90s, but still in the top 100 of most played tracks on UK TV and radio between 2000 and 2010.
God. Can you give me some clues? So I can narrow it down.
I'll give you a clue. They're Australian.
They're Australian. Jet. Kylie Minogue.
Close.
Danny Minogue.
Close still.
Jason Donovan.
No. American listeners, and most of our audience is American, will be wondering what the hell we're talking about right now. But I'll put you out of your misery. Natalie Imbruglia with the track Torn.
What a great track.
What is it? Yeah, big track, huge track. But surprised me that still in the top 100 played tracks, even 20-something years after it originally came out.
Gosh.
I think it came out in 97 or 96, something like that. So yes, I will put a link to the show, a link in the show notes, which goes to the top 100 list, so you can go and check that out. Pharrell did also record a kind of thank you kind of message, which I think is on BBC Radio 1 or Radio 2's Instagram and webpage, and I'll put a link to that as well if I can find it. Pharrell was also speaking from his, it looks like beachside house. I think this was yesterday, speaking to Jimmy Fallon. Obviously, everyone's doing their late night shows from home now via Skype or FaceTime or Zoom or whatever it is they're using. And Pharrell was on Fallon last night to talk a bit about something in the water festival, things going on with the coronavirus, but also to plug the Global Citizens festival or show, whatever you want to call it, which is happening on Saturday, I believe, this Saturday coming up. You can go to globalcitizen.org/together-at-home to register your email and get a link to be able to watch the show. It is basically a who's who of people in music and comedy performing in a 2-hour show. I'm not quite sure how they're going to put this together or how it's actually going to work. But you can go there, and Pharrell will be one of the performers, so it will be interesting to see what he does on there. No doubt it will be a song like Happy or Get Lucky or one of these upbeat, cheery kind of numbers. But you can go there, you can watch that. I think it's going to be broadcast on YouTube and Tidal and MTV and CNN and every channel under the sun. I think will have this either live or after the fact. Some BBC news from the last week or so. The pre-fall 2020 second drop at BBC EU came out yesterday. I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday, perhaps. A small limited number of items, mainly with the kind of BBC EU Heart and Mind logo emblazoned upon the front and back of them, mainly t-shirts, crew necks and hoodies from what I remember seeing in a variety of colours. I personally love this BBC EU Heart and Mind logo. I saw somebody on a Facebook group earlier today complaining about it and complaining about this BBC EU drop or the last couple of drops. Personally, I'm a big fan of this logo. It's nice, clean, simple, ties back into the history of BBC, fits the mantra, looks nice. So I like these items. They look good. And also more BBC EU Sounds isolation tapes on Spotify. So if you're after new music, I think there are now 4 or 5 volumes of mixtapes out on Spotify. I think they are just on Spotify for the time being as well. But you can head over to Spotify and type in, I think, BBC EU, and you'll be able to find their page and follow them and check out the mixtapes. We've also seen this week BBC US re-release the iconic yellow and blue diamond and dollar hoodies. We'd seen this pattern used recently over in Japan on a number of items. These hoodies are now coming to the US. I'm not sure if these are Japan items that are now available in the US or whether they're US-made ones. But they are available now. BBC US also doing a t-shirt design contest as well. We are recording this on the 16th. I think entries close on the 20th. So if you are a budding artist or graphic designer or just a fan of BBC and you've got an idea of something you'd like to see on the front of a t-shirt, then head over to their Instagram to get all the information around that and to submit your idea. And from my understanding, the winner will be picked and their design will actually be produced on the front of BBC t-shirts that will be on sale in the US and on their web store. All right, I think that's all of the news I had. Tim, anything from yourself?
No, nothing news-wise. You've covered everything off there that I only knew about the EU drop, so thanks for that information. One of the things I just wanted to discuss was Something in the Water. Obviously, that's been postponed to next year. I haven't had a chance to kind of chat to him about this. Obviously, Clips are down as playing, which I find quite interesting. I don't know if No Malice has had a change of heart where he's got to go back to playing the old Clips tracks because he wants to distance himself from him after he got back into Christianity. Well, got back into Christianity, became more devout in Christianity. So it'd be interesting to know if they're recording something new or it's going to be a kind of a different kind of Clips show. What do you know?
We chatted about this, I think, on last week's show, but it was in about hour 7 of the podcast, which went on for quite a while. So a lot of people may not have actually heard us talk about it. I personally think this is a personal favour to Pharrell. I think Pharrell has kind of personally asked them to kind of get back together for this one-off show. I know Pusha has been approached and asked if anything else was happening because they were kind of reforming as the Clips for this show, and he stated that no, nothing else was in the works or anything like that. Obviously, as always, he says never say never and all this kind of thing, and I'm sure if the opportunity arose, Pusha would very much be up for it. But I think this is very much on Malice's side of things, or No Malice, whatever we want to call him nowadays. I'll just stick to Malice for the time being. This is very much, he's kind of him putting his foot down, not really being interested in kind of doing any of that kind of stuff or that kind of content anymore. I think he may change his mind in the future, but for now, I don't think he's particularly interested at all in doing that. And in terms of the show, something I was thinking about as well. I think they will be very, very picky over, and this is if they end up doing it next year, because obviously they were scheduled for this year, but I don't think they'd be contractually obliged to do it next year. I'd hope they would do it, but I think it will be a very specific set list that I think would have to have the sign off of Malice. I think he would work very closely with Pusha to actually kind of devise that set list. I think that set list would consist of not necessarily stuff that has the least profanity, but I think that has less content around. Around certain topics like that, basically. Yeah. And I personally think I reckon that Malice would potentially alter some of his verses if they needed to do, because of course they're going to have to do grinding, they're going to have to do some of the really big hits, and there's going to be content in some of those tracks that I think Malice would be uncomfortable performing and reciting at the moment. So I think he will probably look at reworking some of those and rewriting them perhaps slightly. It would maybe be, a change of word here and there or changing a bar slightly, but I think he would probably want to rework them somehow, or at least his parts of them.
So my 2 + 2 equaling 5, it seems now, is that, it's before the Daytona album was released. Oh, no, it was after Daytona, sorry, that Pusha was working on King Push with the Neptunes. And obviously King Push never happened. So I thought when I saw Clips playing Something in the Water, these non-released King Push tracks are going to form a new Clips album. But it seems I'm in dreamland.
Yeah, I think we're all in dreamland. I know we all hope for a Clips album. We all dream of it. And obviously, we saw them back together on the Kanye album not long ago, which was a really, really good track. But again, that's a really specific project that I think Malice could kind of sign up to, because it is all about Kanye finding his spirituality again, and almost going down that same route that Malice went down a number of years back. So I think that's why he agreed to do that. And again, I think Something in the Water is probably a personal favour to Pharrell. It's not like either of them, I think, really need the money or anything like that. I know they're being offered silly money quite regularly to go back on tour and get back together and record stuff again. And Malice just isn't really interested at all. So yeah, we will see. Time will tell. But unfortunately, I think we will need to keep dreaming and hoping, and maybe one day we'll see that day when they reform. There was something I think you mentioned to me. Was it earlier this week? The Adidas Human-Made Superstars.
Yes. Yeah. So you're always my go-to person, if I'm honest. I think if anyone's going to know anything about some new drops, it's this man here, Stephen. So I didn't get. I looked on the website, and I think it was just I saw it on Nigo's Instagram. It's like a pink one, human-made with the heart. Which looked amazing, but then I didn't see any releases on there. But you said it was a pre-release.
Yes, they did a Japan-only pre-release on the Human Made website, which was whatever day it was, end of last week, start of this week. I can't remember the date, but there will be a public release. I think it was today that Adidas and Nigo started posting about it, and it will be available, I think, on the Adidas site. I'm pretty sure I saw BBC EU post something about it, so I'm pretty sure the BBC stores will have them. And yeah, there will be a kind of more general release. I think, what did I say to you the other day? Because I did ask the man that helps roll this out with Nigo.
I like the fact you were going to say his name, but stop yourself.
Yes, I did. Most people probably know who he is, but yeah. So yes, general release is on the 24th. Which is in about a week's time or something, isn't it? Yeah, next Friday. So if you've seen them online, you're after a pair. Yeah, next Friday will be your time to cop them, and hopefully you'll be able to get some this time.
Brilliant, and that's. I'm just having a quick look at the BBC EU site. I can't see any posts, but it might be on the story, which I'll have a look later. Okay, next Friday.
Yes, next Friday, people, yes. And yes, that's the Superstars. I think there's a couple of different slight colour variants, but they are generally all white all over, pretty much, with some slight changes between the, I think, two variants. So yeah, I think you can check them out now on, like I say, I think Nigo posted about them earlier, Adidas may have done, I think BBC did. So by the time this comes out, I think most people hopefully have seen them, and yes, you'll be able to get them next week. I think that's all the news I had. So, any other topics you wanted to discuss or cover at all?
I think it's the elephant in the room, and the room that we're all stuck in at the moment, our houses, is isolation and how we're all dealing with it. So I live by myself in a place called Nantwich in Cheshire, which is just outside of Manchester, for the American people out there, or people who are southern in the UK who've never heard of Nantwich. It's basically near Manchester. That's if you go on holiday, you always say, from near Manchester. So I mean, I'm living on my own, self-isolated, and it's, you know what, I've at this moment in time been dealing with it okay. Before lockdown, I started a new kind of health regime of getting up at 6:30 in the morning, going for a swim, going in, not working from home, working from the office to interact with people. I think that helps improve your mental health. If you sat inside on your own for a lot, I think it does take a knock. So I've got like a really good health regime, playing a bit of squash, and I started doing a bit of yoga and meditation. I wasn't doing anything crazy because it's beginners and I'm not very flexible, but that was like a great way for me to kind of manage my mental health and also my physical health. And then when this happened, it's like, shit, what am I going to do? And I'm slowly adapting on the health side of, because we're still in the UK allowed to go for an hour's worth of exercise, so I go for a run. But what I've found to keep the kind of the human interaction up, so doing this tonight is great. So thank you so much for asking me on. But I do a couple of quizzes each week on Zoom. I do one with work colleagues on a Wednesday, and then one with friends and family on a Saturday evening, raising money for Mind Charity, which is a mental health charity. And we've raised over £800 in 4 weeks, and that's just people putting in, what you would do for a pub quiz, a couple of quid here and there. Some people putting in a bit more, and it's. I didn't want to make it a mandatory thing because, it's people in lockdown. Some people are furloughed. People are self-employed, won't get money till July in the UK. So it's more if you want to do it. So I'm really happy that with the amount we've got so far, and from a personal perspective, it's just really helping me with my weeks. Well, I've got no one to see. So I don't know. I suppose my messages to people who are listening, who are struggling. First of all, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Timmy Dougs. That's TIMMYDOUGS. But utilize the tools that you've got. So like we're doing, we've got a video conference, so I can see Stephen's lovely face and he can see mine. And keep in contact with your friends, not just text. Get on video calls. Honestly, it's really helping me. So that was the kind of message. How are you dealing with it, Stephen?
Yeah, kind of similar. I live here by myself in this big ass apartment, so I'm rattling around here a lot by myself. But yeah, I'm utilizing what I've got here. So and again, my situation is a bit different. I have friends here in Finland, but also friends in the UK that I haven't seen since probably, when was I last back there? I can't remember. End of last year, maybe. Yeah. But I probably won't get to go back this summer like I normally do. Probably won't be any travel for a while. So, even all my family are in the UK. So even when all this kind of blows over, it's still going to be a while before I can actually, see my family again. So doing what you said, basically, utilizing Skype and FaceTime and Zoom and all these kinds of things. House parties, another one that people are using at the moment. Yeah. Just jump on there, upload your contacts, send a few messages to people. I would say, keep interacting. That's why, again, I've started trying to ramp up these podcasts again and do them weekly as opposed to the kind of slightly sporadic schedule I had for quite a while, because I know that I need something to do on a daily, weekly basis, but I also know there's plenty of other people that are in, Telegram groups that we're in or on Instagram or wherever it may be that also want to jump on a podcast and have a chat about music that they love, or some BBC stuff, or just general stuff like this, basically. And just interact with somebody. And again, like you say, we're doing it via Skype. We can kind of see each other. I know we've spoken briefly in the past online, but we never kind of met each other, let's say. Yeah. So it's a great opportunity just to kind of do these sorts of things. And if you're part of let's say a Telegram group or whatever it might be, where you've got people and you don't really know who some of them are or whatever it is, and reach out to people, start having chats with people, and try and make the best of the situation. I know that's kind of easy to say and sometimes quite difficult to do, but I'm trying to think of the word here. Take the initiative, let's say, if you can and if you feel up to it, take the initiative, reach out to some people, suggest something, like you do, like, a pub quiz or whatever it might be. I know there's a lot of comedians in the UK at least, and probably in other countries all around the world, that are now doing these kind of interactive quizzes and TV shows where you can kind of get together with other people online and do them. I know the comedian Jimmy Carr does like a daily quiz. I was watching some highlights of that on YouTube earlier. I don't know where he does it each day. I assume it's on his YouTube channel, but there's various questions there that you can kind of do with other people around you. I've mentioned in the past as well, a few weeks back, a comedy show that I really like in the UK called Taskmaster. They're doing like not a daily task, I think it's every other day, that you can do inside your home, with your family or whoever you're at home with, or by yourself if you're there by yourself. My kid did one yesterday. We uploaded the video earlier onto Twitter, and they get judged by the hosts of the show. And at the end of this, in a month's time or 2 months' time, whenever it may be, they'll tally up people's points that have submitted videos, and there'll be a winner. So I think there are plenty of things to do. They're not always in the place where you'd expect them to be, such as YouTube and things like this and Twitter. But I think if you go out there and you kind of search for them, there's plenty of things to keep people occupied. And also one thing to remember as well, I think we briefly touched on this before we started recording, is we are on, I think, what we refer to as kind of lockdown, and we are kind of self-isolating. But you've got to remember, you are not just confined to your house. You have to remember you are, in general, still allowed to leave your house to get some exercise, to go for a walk, go to the shops, these kinds of things as well. So try and make use of that. Even if you don't need to go to the shops one day, just go for a walk for half an hour or an hour. Don't just, sit there in front of Netflix for, 12 hours straight, which is, easy to do. And, I've done it a few times in the last kind of few weeks, I have to admit. But, I find if things are getting a bit stale, if I've not kind of spoken to anyone or seen anyone for a while, then I make sure I kind of, get up, walk around the block a few times maybe. I've got the kind of sea just sort of in a beach just down the road from me, so I try and get down there and get a bit of fresh air and, put some music on, put a podcast on, put this podcast on. Obviously, I won't listen to myself because I hate the sound of my own voice. But other people out there, maybe that could be something you do each week. Seeing as these podcasts are going really, really long now, you could definitely stick some earphones in, go out, listen to this for an hour or two, then head back home, So I think there's plenty to do, but it's a case of, finding it. And I know it's hard to have the motivation to make that extra effort to do something new, learn something new, download something and all this kind of stuff. But I think once you do it and you make it part of your daily or weekly routine, as you mentioned, you're doing a work thing each week and a family thing on another day as well each week. As soon as that becomes part of your routine as well, it gives you something to kind of work towards, to look forward to, whatever it may be. And I think that's kind of very important to staying, mentally healthy at times like this.
Agreed.
And again, as you mentioned, if anyone wants to reach out and just, chat rubbish, then they're always more than welcome to drop me a message on Instagram or give me a call on Instagram or Skype or whatever it may be. If you reach out, I'm happy to give you my email address so you can find me on Skype or FaceTime or whatever it might be and chat. And if you want to come on the podcast, again, I'm at home every day as well, so I'm fairly flexible with when I can record, what I can record, when I can do it. If you're ever kind of feeling like you've got nothing to do and you just want to chat about something that you enjoy and that brings you some kind of happiness, whether that's music or movies or whatever, then again, reach out and there's always a podcast we can make.
Real. Well, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's good it's really easy to just listen to music and not take in notes. Obviously, I've listened to the show before and you get some proper musos on here who know about bars and riffs and all that kind of stuff. I thought, bloody hell, turns out I don't know much about music. So it's nice to kind of get do a bit of research around it, really listen to it and take it on board. And it was a nice surprise that Brent joined us as well, because I thought it was just the two of us, and then you bring N.E.R.D's guitarist on. I'm like, this is amazing. What a great Thursday. See, I do that a lot at the moment, get the days wrong. Thursday, what a great Thursday. So thank you.
I don't have it. All the days blur into one at the moment. I constantly have to lift my wrist up and look at my watch to tell me what the day is, and I'm when I assume I know what day it is, I'm wrong probably 90% of the time, I think.
Yeah.
All right, well let's wrap it up there then. And again, thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure to kind of have you on, and you're welcome back anytime if you got any other tracks you want to chat about. Again, we try and do this kind of chronologically, but I'm more than happy to jump around and pick any kind of track from anywhere. So again, to yourself, Tim, and to anyone out there that wants to jump on, then just give me a shout and feel free.
Thank you.
So yeah, like I say, let's wrap it up there. I will hopefully put all the links in the show notes if I remember to do so. You can find the show notes either in your podcast app listening to this, or you can head over to the website, which is theotherz.net, Otherz with a Z. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that sort of jazz at Otherz Podcast. You can find me at Steve R. Penny. And Tim, where can people find you again?
It's on Instagram at Tim Dougill. Let me just double check that because I've changed it. You can edit this bit, can't you?
I can. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But either way, I will put a link in the show notes to your Instagram so people can click through and find you.
Yeah, okay, at Tim Dougs, so TIMDOUGS.
Good stuff, nice one. Well, that's it from us for this week, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon, everyone. Bye-bye.